Being kind is easy. Being effective is rare today. I'll show you why your niceness is costing you power, and how mastering Virtù turns hesitation into control, weakness into influence, and passivity into domination. In a world ruled not by virtue, but by cunning, those who hesitate are devoured. Humanity bows to force, shrewdness, and decisiveness, not to sentiment or moral pretenses. Today, we peer into the dark machinery of human nature, uncovering how the soft-hearted falter while the calculating rise. If you wish to survive and thrive, you must learn to wield Virtù, the subtle art of bending circumstance, people, and perception to your will. Prepare to leave your innocence behind and step into the cold, elegant calculus of power. Do you see the man who is endlessly polite, who nods, smiles, and agrees? He believes the world rewards his kindness, yet the world does not. The world rewards power. It bows not to the gentle, but to the resolute. Your niceness, your hesitation to strike, your reluctance to offend, is a silent betrayal of your own potential. You are giving away what should be yours: influence, authority, and control. Consider the statesmen of Florence, men who rose not by birthright or piety, but by cold calculation. Those who hesitated for fear of offending allies were swiftly replaced by men who acted decisively, who understood that in human affairs, hesitation is weakness dressed as virtue. Do you wish to be remembered as the one who spoke kindly while others carved empires with decisive hands? Or do you wish to be the one who bends fortune to your will? Niceness is a mask. It conceals your intentions from yourself more than from others. When you prioritize being liked over being effective, you allow others to shape your destiny. People will sense your softness. They will test your limits, and they will take what you fail to protect. History is filled with examples: the meek prince, beloved by courtiers, who lost his state to a shrewd rival who cared little for etiquette, but everything for power. His kindness was his undoing. But notice this carefully. I do not advocate cruelty for cruelty's sake, nor do I suggest that you abandon morality entirely. What I insist upon is strategy. Strategy demands that you recognize the cost of being nice. Ask yourself, how often has a refusal to speak harsh truths or to act boldly allowed others to advance at your expense? How often have your smiles concealed silent frustration while others exploited your restraint? You are not merely being nice, you are being powerless. Think of Julius Caesar, who, before crossing the Rubicon, smiled, courted allies, and maintained the appearance of diplomacy. Yet when the moment came, he acted decisively, breaking the norms of courtesy to seize the crown of influence. His effectiveness was not in perpetual kindness, but in knowing when to abandon it. Niceness is a tool, not a creed. Master it, or it will master you. Psychology reinforces this harsh truth. Human beings respond to signals of dominance and decisiveness far more than to signals of affection or approval. When you hesitate to assert boundaries, when you temper truth with endless politeness, you are training others to disregard your will. They will sense weakness. They will sense the hesitation behind your smile, and they will act accordingly. Are you surprised that life rewards the decisive, the calculating, and the coldly strategic, rather than the endlessly accommodating? You should not be. Consider the merchant who always yields to the buyer's whims. He fears confrontation, he fears loss of favor, yet he loses respect, influence, and profit. The buyer, emboldened by this perpetual concession, pushes harder. The merchant's niceness becomes a chain around his own neck. It is the same with alliances, friendships, and intimate relationships. To be liked above all else is to surrender power. The world does not forgive hesitation, it rewards boldness. Ask yourself, what is the true cost of being nice? Is it the discomfort of a harsh word, or the quiet erosion of your influence? Is it the fleeting approval of others, or the permanent loss of opportunity? Every time you soften your approach to avoid conflict, you trade strength for ephemeral affection. You are not building loyalty, you are cultivating entitlement. Others begin to expect your forbearance. They take for granted your restraint. And soon, you are no longer the arbiter of outcomes. You are merely a participant in them. And yet, there is hope. Recognizing the danger is the first step toward mastery. Niceness need not vanish, but it must serve your purpose. Let it be a weapon, not a shield. Let it be calculated, strategic, precise. Smile when it gains you leverage. Hold back when it allows you advantage. Use the perception of kindness to conceal the readiness to act decisively. Then, when the moment arrives, strike. Not from cruelty, but from clarity, from mastery over the human terrain around you. Remember, power is silent but decisive. Kindness without strategy is noise, it is the chatter of the weak. Those who survive and dominate understand this intimately. They know that the world bows only to action, not intention. To continue as you are, polite, hesitant, accommodating, is to hand your destiny to others while convincing yourself that you are virtuous. And virtue alone, when unaccompanied by effect, is insufficient. So, I ask you, are you willing to remain the man who smiles while others take, or will you learn the cold discipline of effectiveness? The answer lies not in sentiment, but in observation, calculation, and resolve. And when you master this first, fundamental principle, the peril of perpetual niceness, you are ready to confront the next revelation, the art of bending circumstance to your will. Have you ever wondered why some men rise while others stumble, despite similar talent, luck, or opportunity? The difference lies not in chance, but in the cunning mastery of Virtu over Fortuna. Skill without action is meaningless. Fortune favors those who shape it, rather than those who wait for it to bless them. Ask yourself, do you bend circumstances to your will, or are you merely swept along by the currents of events? History is merciless in its lessons. Consider Cesare Borgia, the son of a powerful pope, yet more than a child of fortune. His strength lay not merely in inheritance, but in ruthless calculation, decisiveness, and the strategic use of both fear and favor. He seized opportunities before they fully presented themselves, striking at weakness before rivals recognized it. Do you see the lesson? Fortuna alone is fickle. She offers, she withholds, she punishes the hesitant. Only those who act with virtù, skill, audacity, and the cold measure of opportunity command her. Do you act with such decisiveness, or do you wait for luck to favor your cautious hand? Most men mistake preparation for power. They study endlessly, gather counsel, polish their appearance, yet hesitate when the moment to act arrives. In these pauses, others take the crown, the territory, the prize. Skill is the seed, action is the harvest. Without execution, wisdom is impotent, and knowledge becomes the ornament of the weak. The principle is not abstract. It is the law of human dynamics. Fortuna will test you relentlessly. She will place obstacles in your path, allies will betray, and opportunities will vanish if you linger. The weak hope, the strong seize. Consider the merchants of Venice, masters of trade and diplomacy. They knew the winds of fortune could shift with a single storm. They did not complain or pray. They acted. They struck deals, manipulated rivals, and protected assets before fortune had even announced her intentions. Their power was calculated, decisive, and inevitable. And yet many fail because they confuse boldness with recklessness. Acting without strategy is mere aggression. Acting without calculation is gambling. Virtù is not the absence of prudence. It is the intelligent alignment of skill, timing, and opportunity. Ask yourself, are you bold or merely brash? Do you act with precision, or do you flail in the hope that fortune smiles upon you? Your answer determines whether you will shape destiny or be shaped by it. Observe the great generals of history. Alexander conquered lands not because they were easily won, but because he anticipated fortune's turn. He marched when others hesitated. He struck when others debated. He used his personal skill, knowledge of men, and ruthless clarity to bend events to his will. Notice, however, that his brilliance was not in luck alone. It was in understanding when to act, when to manipulate perception, and when to consolidate power before chance could intervene. Psychology explains why so many fail to master this principle. Humans are wired to avoid risk, to favor comfort over challenge. Hesitation feels safe. Yet, the cost of delay is often invisible until it is irreversible. Every moment you wait, someone else moves. Every opportunity you leave unexplored, someone else claims. Do you see the peril? Fortune does not suffer the timid. She is cruel, indifferent, and relentless. Only those who cultivate the cold discipline of Virtù prevail. Ask yourself, how often do you allow the tides of circumstance to dictate your choices? How often do you defer action, citing caution, respect, or morality, while the world slips past you? Skill is hollow if you lack the audacity to employ it. Knowledge is impotent if not directed with strategy. And morality, when it prevents decisive action, is nothing more than chains upon your ambition. But there is hope. Fortuna can be your servant, not your master, if you learn to anticipate, adapt, and act with precision. This is the essence of Virtù, the ability to discern the moment, to weigh risk and reward, and to strike decisively when opportunity is ripe. It is not luck, it is mastery. It is not hope, it is calculation. The weak pray to fortune. The strong command her. Now, I leave you with this: every day that passes without decisive action, the tides of fortune slip further from your grasp. Those who seize today shape tomorrow. Those who hesitate inherit nothing but regret. And soon, you will see the next revelation, the ruthless art of turning human emotion into a weapon of influence. Because Virtù alone is not enough. To dominate fully, you must understand the minds of those around you, and bend them to your will. Do you believe progress is made through harmony, through gentle persuasion and endless understanding? If so, you misunderstand the world you were born into. Power has never belonged to the agreeable. It belongs to those willing to act with strategic ruthlessness that others avoid. Unless you command that darker edge, you will yield ground to those who do. So ask yourself, do you want to be respected or merely tolerated? Consider the rise of states and rulers who understood this truth. When ancient Rome expanded, it was not kindness that secured its empire. It was decisive force, calculated intimidation, and the cold understanding that fear, when used correctly, creates stability far more effectively than affection. The Romans did not delight in cruelty, they applied it sparingly, but with unmistakable clarity. Do you possess such clarity, or do you soften yourself to appear harmless? Strategic ruthlessness is not recklessness. It is precision. It is the ability to deliver a firm decision when others are paralyzed by emotion. Look at leaders who vanished into history's shadows, those who tried to appease everyone, who bent under pressure, who feared conflict more than insignificance. Their names dissolved. Meanwhile, those who knew when to be unyielding, when to strike, when to punish, when to remove obstacles, etched themselves into civilization. Ask yourself, how often have you avoided confrontation to protect another's comfort? How often have you sacrificed your own position because you feared disapproval? These hesitations accumulate until they define your character. People learn your boundaries by testing them, and if your boundaries collapse at the slightest push, you teach the world that you are negotiable. A negotiable person is not respected. He is managed. Look at the corporate world, where politeness masks a battlefield. Promotions do not go to the gentlest, but to those who act decisively, who take credit before others claim it, who cut ties cleanly rather than nurturing toxic alliances. A manager who cannot fire a destructive employee is not compassionate, he is weak, and weakness invites exploitation. The same applies in friendships, business, and relationships. Those who cannot be firm are eventually controlled by those who can. Yet strategic ruthlessness is not cruelty for its own sake. It is the discipline to do what must be done, even when it is uncomfortable. Consider generals who knew when to retreat, when to sacrifice a battalion to save an army, when to enforce discipline with unwavering firmness. Their severity was not malice but responsibility. In life, you cannot protect what you are unwilling to defend, and you cannot defend what you refuse to control. Psychologists understand this principle. Humans follow strength. We are drawn to those who project certainty, who act without hesitation, who are unafraid to enforce consequences. When you assert yourself, you trigger deep instincts in others. They recognize that your decisions carry weight. But when you yield, soothe, and concede constantly, you trigger the opposite instinct. People see you as safe to ignore, safe to use, safe to dominate. Reflect on your life. Think of the moments when you allowed someone to overstep, when you excused manipulation to keep the peace. Peace built on your silence is not peace. It is surrender, and each surrender erodes your authority until only resentment remains. Strategic ruthlessness restores that authority. It teaches others that you possess a line that cannot be crossed, a will that cannot be bent, a mind that cannot be swayed by guilt or pressure. Used with precision, it creates respect and clarity. Others learn that your tolerance has limits, and beyond those limits lies decisive action. When you begin to act with this controlled edge, you will notice the shift immediately. Conversations change. People pause before challenging you. Opportunities that once slipped away now gravitate toward you because others sense your resoluteness. The world reorganizes itself around the person who cannot be easily bent. And this reorganization is the sign of rising power. So now ask yourself one final question. Are you willing to embrace the discipline required to wield such power? Because once you do, you will be ready for the next principle. The art of mastering human emotion itself, not through force, but through subtle psychological manipulation that shapes behavior from within. Emotions rule men far more than logic ever has, yet few understand this truth deeply enough to use it. You have been taught to express your feelings, to honor them, to let them guide your choices. But tell me, has emotion ever made you powerful? Has surrendering to impulse ever strengthened your position? No. The ones who rise are those who master their inner storms and read the storms in others with cold precision. Throughout history, the greatest manipulators were not the strongest in body, but the calmest in mind. Consider the advisors who shaped kings, the diplomats who redirected wars, the counselors whose quiet whispers altered the fate of nations. They understood that emotion is the lever by which human behavior can be moved. While armies clashed outside, these silent tacticians conquered inside the hearts and fears of those who believed they ruled. But mastery begins with yourself. You cannot influence another's feelings if you remain a prisoner of your own. Think of the leader who panics during crisis. His fear spreads like wildfire, weakening resolve in every follower. Now imagine the rival leader, calm, composed, unreadable. His very stillness becomes authority. Which one resembles you more? The one whose emotions leak uncontrollably, or the one who weaponizes composure to command obedience? Psychology reveals an uncomfortable truth. People trust those who appear emotionally stable, even when that stability is crafted, not genuine. When you control your emotional display, you influence the emotional climate around you. Your calmness becomes contagious. Your confidence becomes persuasive. And your silence becomes a mirror in which others project their fears and desires. You gain power not by expressing your emotions, but by understanding and directing the emotions of those around you. Look to the courts of medieval Europe, where entire kingdoms were steered by those who knew how to manipulate a ruler's emotional weaknesses. A jealous queen, a paranoid king, an ambitious noble. All were puppets to advisors who understood which emotion to provoke and when. A single well-timed suggestion could ignite suspicion. A subtle compliment could forge loyalty. Emotional mastery was not virtue, it was strategy executed with elegance and precision. And in modern life, little has changed. The colleague who flatters you may not admire you, he may be softening your vigilance. The partner who erupts in anger may not be overwhelmed, they may be conditioning you to avoid boundaries. People use emotions as tools every day, whether they admit it or not. The question is not whether manipulation exists, but whether you will remain its target or become its practitioner. Self-control is the first layer. The second is perception. You must learn to read emotional currents as a navigator reads the sea. A flicker of discomfort, a forced smile, a sudden silence. These are signals. They reveal vulnerabilities, motives, and limits. When you can see emotion without being ruled by it, you gain the ability to predict behavior. Prediction is the foundation of influence, because a man whose actions you can foresee becomes a man you can control. The final layer is direction. This is where true mastery emerges. You guide emotions subtly, without force, without open conflict. A pause can create tension. A calm tone can disarm rage. A well-placed doubt can shift alliances. You are no longer reacting to the emotions of others, you are shaping them. The world begins to move according to your emotional gravity, and people follow without understanding why they feel drawn to your certainty. But understand this: emotional mastery is not softness. It is not politeness. It is control over yourself, over perception, and eventually over the behavior of others. Those who wield it quietly often surpass those who use force loudly. They win before battle begins. They persuade without appearing to persuade. They dominate without raising their voice. Ask yourself, are you ready to evolve from emotional participant to emotional architect? Because once you embrace this power, you will see the world change around you. People who once resisted will yield. Situations that once confused you will clarify. But this is only the beginning. The next step is far darker, learning how to manipulate perception itself, shaping what others believe is real. And they will follow you silently. In this keynote, you confront a truth most people avoid: your enemies are often more useful than your allies. Strange, isn't it? Yet history repeats the same lesson. Those who oppose you reveal more about your strength, your weaknesses, and your hidden capacities than those who flatter you. Your enemy is the mirror you did not want, but secretly require. Consider Rome. When Scipio Africanus faced Hannibal, he became sharper, more disciplined, more cunning. Without such an opponent, he would have remained ordinary. His enemy carved him into something greater. So ask yourself, who is carving you? Most people spend their lives trying to erase all opposition. They want comfort. They want applause. They want a life without friction. But comfort softens. Applause dulls. A quiet world blinds you to danger. Your enemy, however, wakes you. Psychology makes this clear: humans sharpen under pressure. You do not refine your strategy in peace. You refine it when someone aims to outmaneuver you. The mind becomes precise only when survival instincts switch on. So when a rival appears, do not panic, observe. They are the furnace that reforges your identity. Think of daily life. A colleague envies you and quietly sabotages you. Most crumble. They complain or retreat. But you treat the attack as data. Their envy exposes your strengths. Their resistance reveals your trajectory. The harder they push, the clearer your ascent becomes. Enemies reveal direction. There is another gift: an enemy gives you clarity. Opposition forces you to decide what truly matters, what must be protected, what must be elevated. A rival focuses the mind the way a whetstone sharpens steel. Yet here lies the paradox: you must not hate them. Hatred clouds judgment. Hatred replaces calculation with impulse. The wise rulers of history did not despise their rivals. They studied them. Hidden inside criticism often lies the insight you need to correct your path. Your enemy becomes your unwilling advisor, if you remain calm enough to extract the lesson. Many never evolve because they cannot tolerate judgment. A harsh word fractures them. A challenge silences them. They flee conflict and then wonder why their power never grows. Power expands through resistance. This does not mean seeking war. It means refusing to bow when conflict finds you. You do not become the victim. You become the strategist. Ask yourself, what weakness is your enemy exploiting? What insecurity are they activating? What blind spot are they exposing? These questions are not signs of fragility, but of mastery. Even more important, your enemy shapes your presence. A person without opposition remains untested, unformed. One who has endured conflict walks differently, speaks differently, is perceived differently. Struggle writes authority into your posture. Look at the great figures of history. Not one rose in a vacuum. Rivals surrounded them. Doubters shadowed them. Traitors followed them. But instead of collapsing, they learned to think ahead. They anticipated betrayal before loyalty. They prepared for resistance before celebration. This made them formidable. Opposition, not luck, forged them. So treat your enemy as a catalyst. Someone who forces evolution. Someone who sharpens instinct. Someone who accelerates your rise. This is the cost of power growth through friction, not ease. And understand this. The moment you have no enemies is the moment you have stopped advancing. People attack what threatens them. They resist what surpasses them. They target what they fear will eclipse them. If someone has marked you, it means you are already climbing. Before we conclude, remember this: powerful individuals often owe their sharpest insights to those who once tried to destroy them. Every setback, every betrayal, every quiet threat teaches you a language that comfort never will, the language of strategy, resilience, and foresight. When you learn to read that language, nothing remains hidden from you. In the shadows of rivalry, you discover the truth about your own ambition. You uncover the limits you once accepted without question, and you learn how far you are capable of rising when pressure shapes you. But we are not finished. There is a deeper, more strategic role your enemies play, one rarely understood, one that can invert any power struggle entirely in your favor. In the end, control is never taken by force alone. It is taken in silence, through perception, through emotion, through the illusions others believe they chose themselves. Power lives in the shadows you create, not the commands you speak. When people move in the direction you desire without sensing the pressure of your hand, that is true mastery. Influence wrapped in invisibility, dominance disguised as harmony. Ask yourself, do you want obedience, or do you want obedience that feels like free will? Because the world follows more willingly when it thinks it is leading. Remember this truth: those who manipulate openly provoke resistance. Those who manipulate subtly reshape reality. And now, I ask you, what did you see in this lesson about yourself? What strategies will you sharpen? What weaknesses will you no longer tolerate? Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe if you seek more strategies carved from the darker edges of human nature. Share this video with those who believe they understand power, and watch how differently they behave when they finally see the game being played around them.